This evening, we could explore the fourth verse of Self-Liberating Meditation and then meditate. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Meditate Like a Jedi is brought to you by the kind folks who support my work on Patreon, typically for about the cost of 1 cup of coffee a month. This evening, we could chant and meditate and enjoy a lesson or two. But first, if you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate as profoundly as Ahsoka Tano on Lothal, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. If at any point during this evening's live stream you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them to your life, simply type that question in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Now, I ran out of time before class, so I'm going to take a moment right now to add in some chanting marks. We chant in a monotone with the exception of the first syllable and the second to the last syllable of every couplet or triplet, and that can be a bit ungainly to learn, so I try to put chanting marks to make it easier for folks. Oh, there it is. All right. Tally-ho, let's chant. Fortunate children, if you seek to attain enlightenment, then are the wandering vagabond, the old dog patrol. Whoops. There we go. Shall explain my unerring halt advice in just a few words. Put this into practice, my determined children, I beg you. So one of the things I really love about this is one of his teachers called him an old dog, which was not an affectionate term, it was a term of profound contempt. And he kind of took that as his signature. So this guy really wasn't about self-glorification. He also wasn't about manipulation. He didn't say, follow my words or you'll roast eternally in hell. He said, I beg you, which infers you'll be doing me a favor if you put my advice into action, which to me conveys earnestness and gentleness and a refusal to coerce. Now let's turn our attention to the latest iteration of Buddha's Very Easy Tantra, which will serve as our practice text, or sadhana, if you're nasty. We're going to begin with Ngondro's inner preliminary practices, which are known by many names, including right enthusiasm. Let us begin by strengthening the neural pathways responsible for empathy and enthusiasm simply by chanting. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. And after a remarkably concise practice, it's now time for the main event, meditation. Known as awareness and letting go, known as Zen Chan and Dhyana, also known as Trekcho, or the slice through the fundamental duality of dread and desire. After such a lofty introduction, you would expect it's something difficult, but it's incredibly easy. So we're going to use shorter inhalations and longer exhalations. During our inhalation, we'll do our best we will simply label what we experience. Whether what we experience is a sight, sound, sensation, flavor, scent, or the like, or what we are experiencing is an emotion, intention, thought, memory, or imagining. Whatever we're experiencing, whether it's external or internal, physical or mental, pleasurable or painful, interesting or boring, glorious or grotesque, whatever we're experiencing, we're just going to label it this. Our job is not to concentrate. That's rigid. That's controlling. Our job is the opposite. To notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. It is as if we were at a theater. We are not the playwright. We are not the director. We are not the producer. We are not the thespian. We are merely a person in the audience enjoying the show. That's it. But then what do we do with that which we experience? During each exhalation, we physically relax and mentally release as best we can. Now here's the wild thing. This awareness, we don't have to force it. It's already a component of the sympathetic nervous system that we access during each inhalation. And this relaxation, we don't have to force that either. It's already a feature of our parasympathetic nervous system that we are wired to access involuntarily during every exhalation. So that's it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. I recommend sitting upright. If you need to use a chair, that's fine. Just don't slouch. Sit with your tuchas at the edge of the chair. If you can, sit on the floor comfortably and sustainably. I recommend using a sturdy circular meditation cushion. They're called Zafus. You can find one on Amazon. I recommend setting your ankles upon a folded yoga blanket. You can get one for less than $30 on Amazon. And you're good to go. Keep your hands in your lap. Because your hands in your lap, after a few minutes, you'll start breathing with your lower abdomen, and that's fine. You'll also notice that as you exhale, you'll be exhaling through your nose, which is, I don't know any other, which is pretty good. You know, it's better than the mouth, but the mouth is better than nothing. I mean, if you if you have allergies, if you have a stuffy nose, I would prefer it if you did not asphyxiate. I'm funny that way. But there you go. Breathing in, using your lower abdomen like a third lung, breathing out through your nostrils, and then Bob's your uncle. A Buddha is not someone who never experiences anything unpleasant. No, not at all. A Buddha is just someone who has so mastered the Eightfold Path that they practice it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. You've already mastered probably riding a bike and tying a shoelace. Learning to master the Buddha's path doesn't have to take longer than 7 years, or 7 quarters, or 7 months, or 7 fortnights, or 7 weeks, or even 7 days. I suppose a more concise way would be this. Breathe, breathe, breathe through your nostrils. Gently articulate your lower abdomen as if it was your third lung. Sean, my friend, you're completely welcome. Do you have any specific questions? Oh, let's talk about overthinking right now. Let's hit that. Let's hit it hard. Let's hit it like it owes us money. So, right now, as we're sitting, thinking is not our enemy. As we sit and silently and mentally recite the monosyllabic demonstrative pronoun this as we breathe in, we just label our thoughts this, and then relax during our exhalation. If you do that, no matter how fast your brain is going, it's still healing. It's still going to benefit you. We all have a perfectionistic streak. Sadly, there are many people who will try to exploit us and by preying on our perfectionism. Good question. Good question. Intelligent question. So tonight, allow your lower abdomen to distend as you breathe in. I recommend a sharp breath on the inhalation and a sharp, short breath on the inhalation and a softer, longer breath on the exhalation. That's why I've chosen one syllable and three syllables. But the most important thing is listen to your body. Your body is very good at breathing. Many years ago, one of my teachers used to console me. He said, "Take heart. Anything you do for an hour is going to get uncomfortable. Whether it's receiving your favorite sexual favor or sitting in meditation, anything you do consistently for an hour is going to be uncomfortable." That's just how we evolved. So it's not a failure. And if someone tells you if you're truly spiritual, you wouldn't feel pain, thank them for their time and then run away from them. The first enlightenment factor is mindfulness, which means we get to perceive what's going on, even if it's unglamorous. So that short, sharp in-breath is kind of like a sniff. It's just... Now, there's an exception. With my disabilities, I'm prone to fall asleep. I have problems with vitality. So this works really good for me. But there's times when we are anxious or angry. And when those things happen, you probably want to balance the in-breath and out-breath. So to balance the in-breath, add the word notice. So this becomes notice this. But since you aren't angry all the time, and since you aren't anxious all the time, this relaxing is a good standby. Or a good, perhaps I should say, rule of thumb. Even though rule of thumb has an unfortunate history in America. That's an excellent question. All right. To answer that question, I'm going to subject you to Jumbo Cam, which sounds kind of punitive, doesn't it? Okay, before a prerequisite to understanding 17 sets of 17 rounds is to understand 16 sets of 16 rounds. Here's how you do that. I like counting rounds on my left hand. You might say, hey, what's a round? One in-breath followed by one out-breath, that's a round. Okay. So what I'd like to do is I count to 16 on my left hand. I only advance my thumb during the inhalations. So for instance, 1, So that was 16. So how would one keep track of that? Well, you could count 16 rounds. You can count 16 sets of 16 rounds. So we'd use the same process on the right hand. First set of 16 rounds. Second set of 16 rounds. Third set until you come over here, which is 16. Now, this is the easy part. Now it gets kind of dodgy. So, we only have 16 places to count on our left hand for rounds, correct? But when I advance my set hand, my right hand, and I count one inhalation, an exhalation, and then on the next breath I begin counting on the left hand, that's 17. Now you might say, okay, I'm following a little bit, but you still wind up with 16 sets on this hand. How do you get the 7th? Whoops, violence. How do you get the 7th? Simple. You see, I found it takes 2 sets of 17 of 7, so it takes 2 collections of 17 sets of 17 rounds. So how do you keep track of those 2 sets? Simple. During the first, and I'm going to have to play with the camera here. So during the first 17 sets, I'm touching the tip of my right middle finger to the first knuckle of my left hand. During the second collection of 17 sets, I rest the tip of my right middle finger upon this second knuckle of my left middle finger. And so that's how you get 2 collections of 17 sets of 17 rounds. Clear as mud? That's something you can't understand conceptually. If you just have to spend some time playing with your hands. Ironically, my grandmother used to keep a photograph of me, of all her grandchildren. There was my eldest cousin looking like a princess from a fairy tale. There was my cousin, who's still older than me, but younger than his sister, looking like little James Bond. There was my baby sister, looking like a cherub. And then there was me, playing with my fingers. So yes, I was destined to play with my fingers. Now, I've pretty much played with every permutation of meditation over several decades. And a lot of people just swear by the universal mudra, which looks like this. But I feel like that contributes to timekeeping neurosis, timekeeping nervousness. Whether you're using a smartphone or whether you're using incense, like for instance, if you have a stick of incense that takes 20 minutes to burn, and you have 3 sticks of incense and a candle, and you light one stick of incense, and that when that burns down, you light your second stick, and then when that burns down, you light your third stick of incense. That's a Iron Age way of timekeeping. But I feel that reduces peace more than contributes peace. And so myself, as a differently abled person, I find this works rather well. And so I share it with anybody who is curious. And so now let's return. One of my first Dzogchen teachers used to say that there are 5 poisons, but they can be transformed into the 5 wisdoms. So the 5 wisdoms are not an antidote to the 5 poisons. But when we apply noticing and letting go to each of the 5 poisons, they transform into the 5 wisdoms. Now we can take a literalist point of view, but it works better if we just take it figuratively. Whatever we notice can be tamed as we relax and release, even if what we notice is ugly and troubling. we come to the final third of our practice. Contemplate 4 contemplations of love, which are known by many things, including Tokal's leapover. Let's begin by reviewing the meaning of this 12-syllable mantra. With whom we invoke the example of the Muni Wise One. Maha greatly wise one Muni, yea, of the Shakya Soha, wishing enlightenment for all. As we chant the mantra, I could feel as if gold rays were emitting from a thumbnail size to horizontal 12-syllable mantra rosary at our hearts. Lavishing all minds, communication, bodies, and circumstances, with wisdom, love, health, and good fortune centered and spontaneous. Let us bring our experience of the mental into the path of love. May all minds of all beings know be as peaceful and wise as the mind of a Buddha of law symbolized by a 1-syllable Siti Clay or Bija mantra. As we breathe in, we silently and mentally recite Heart Moom Wise for all minds. As we chant the mantra during our exhalation, we physically relax as best we can. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Yesuwa. 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 May all relationships of all beings know be as joyful and loving as are real or imagined. Buddha's communication or speech symbolized by this 12-syllable mantra. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Yesuwa. 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 Om Muni Muni Ma ma muni yesuwa om muni muni 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 ma muni yesuwa. May all bodies of all beings now enjoy the beautiful, healthy, effective, and Buddhist thought. All the blissful body of a Yedama Flora and archetype of enlightenment. Huh. There we go. Om muni muni ma muni yesuwa 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 May all circumstances or lots of all beings now have the safety, good fortune, and boon. As a Buddha's real or imagined paradise per land Vanti. Om muni muni ma muni yesuwa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Yesuwa. 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 If you feel that I have earned it, you could type something in the chat window. You could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could share it with your friends. You could support this channel on Patreon, perhaps for even as little as the cost of 1 cup of coffee a month. Or not. The choice is yours. I leave it to you. Either way, it is my intention to return in approximately 10 2/3 hours to lead tomorrow's early morning meditation. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way. Sean, my friend, you are utterly welcome.